The story begins not with a clash of armies or the rise of kings, but with a whisper, a rumor carried on the winds of forgotten libraries, passing from scholar to scholar in hushed tones. It speaks of a manuscript so extraordinary that its existence alone could challenge the very foundations of recorded history. Scholars have called it lost, destroyed, or even mythical, yet those who have glimpsed fragments swear it contains knowledge far beyond its era. A chronicle of events yet to unfold, a tapestry of prophecy written centuries before the first cannons roared across European fields. The manuscript's origins are veiled in secrecy, and its journey through time is marked by disappearance, suppression, and fear. From the dim candlelit rooms of medieval monasteries to the private collections of the world's most secretive aristocrats, this text has been pursued with an almost obsessive intensity, as if it carries a warning meant only for those daring enough to seek it. Legends say that the first references to the manuscript appear in the late Middle Ages, tucked away in the margins of scholarly records, barely noticed by the public eye. Monks and scribes who spoke of it were often silenced or vanished mysteriously, leaving only cryptic notes in their journals. Some accounts suggest that it was created by a reclusive order of scholars, a secret brotherhood whose knowledge was considered dangerous even to kings. Others argue it was the work of a solitary mind, a visionary who saw far beyond the horizon of their own time. Whatever the case, it was clear that this manuscript was not merely a historical record. It was a repository of hidden truths, coded in a language that defied understanding and yet, somehow, resonated with the patterns of the world to come. To the untrained eye, it may seem impossible that a document from centuries ago could predict events in the modern world, yet whispers of its contents hint at uncanny foresight. Wars, revolutions, shifts in empires, and the rise of technologies long before their invention are all said to be encoded within its pages. Some researchers claim that the manuscript does not merely describe these events. It predicts them with a precision that is at once thrilling and unsettling. Maps drawn with symbols that were centuries ahead of their time, timelines that align with modern conflicts, and allegories so vivid they read like contemporary journalism, all contribute to an aura of mystery that has made the text the subject of obsession for generations. The manuscript's disappearance is a story in itself. While fragments occasionally surface, the complete work has eluded discovery for centuries. Scholars speculate that it was deliberately hidden, moved from library to library, monastery to monastery, often under the threat of violence. Fires, floods, and wars may have contributed to its near-total vanishing, but the persistence of rumors suggests that powerful forces deliberately sought to erase it from collective memory. Those who have attempted to publish even small portions were met with resistance, sometimes subtle, sometimes overt. There are stories of scholars who were discredited, imprisoned, or even killed, all for daring to bring the manuscript into the light. Its survival, despite such efforts, only fuels the belief that the knowledge it contains is not meant for casual eyes, that holds truths that could reshape history or destabilize the very structures of power. The allure of the manuscript lies not only in its supposed predictions, but also in the enigma surrounding its physical form. Descriptions vary widely. Some speak of parchment that seems to shimmer under candlelight, as if the ink itself were alive. Others recount a texture that defies decay, surviving fires and floods that claimed ordinary documents. The writing is said to be cryptic, a mix of symbols, unfamiliar scripts, and hidden codes that challenge the mind at every turn. Even those who dedicated their lives to deciphering it found themselves grappling with layers of meaning, unsure where history ends and prophecy begins. Every fragment uncovered hints at a grand design, a mosaic of knowledge scattered across time, waiting for the patient, the daring, or the obsessed to piece together. Yet, despite centuries of searching, much remains unknown. Did the manuscript truly predict the rise and fall of empires? Or are these interpretations a product of human pattern seeking? Was it a creation of genius, madness, or divine inspiration? Perhaps the most captivating aspect is not the answers it promises, but the questions it demands. What happens when knowledge too powerful for its time falls into the wrong hands? And more unsettling still, what if the manuscript's predictions are not confined to the past, but still reach forward into the events of our own time, waiting to be revealed? As the whispers persist, so too does the sense that history, as we know it, may be only the surface of a far more intricate design, one hidden in the delicate, fading pages of a manuscript that refuses to be forgotten. The origins of the Forbidden Manuscript are as enigmatic as its contents. Scholars and conspiracy theorists alike have debated for centuries who could have conceived such a work, blending knowledge, foresight, and an almost mystical understanding of history yet to come. There are no definitive records, only fragments of accounts, scattered across monastic libraries, private journals, and marginal notes in the dusty corners of Europe's oldest archives. Some claim it was the work of a reclusive monk, hidden away in the candlelit recesses of a medieval abbey, who spent decades observing the world and recording not only the events of his time, but visions of centuries ahead. Others whisper of secret societies, brotherhoods devoted to preserving forbidden knowledge, whose members encoded their wisdom in texts meant to survive only if the world was ready to understand them. The question of authorship is deeply intertwined with a manuscript's purpose. If it was written by a single visionary, one wonders what experiences or revelations could have allowed them to foresee wars, revolutions, and upheavals that would occur long after their death. If instead it was the product of a collective, a clandestine order working in secret, then the manuscript becomes more than a prophecy. It becomes a carefully orchestrated attempt to shape the future, to guide those who are capable of interpreting it toward understanding or action. These possibilities, though seemingly fantastical, are supported by the manuscript structure. Each section flows seamlessly into the next, as though the author, or authors, understood the patterns of history with unnerving clarity. Medieval Europe offers the earliest glimpses of the manuscript's existence, though always shrouded in mystery. Monks recorded rumors in the margins of theological texts, references so cryptic that only a few contemporaries understood their significance. Some mention a book of shadows and wars, others a codex of the future, but all agree that it was considered dangerous knowledge, capable of upsetting rulers and destabilizing kingdoms. Stories tell of scholars who vanished after claiming to study it, leaving behind only cryptic notes or fragmented pages. Some historians dismiss these accounts as exaggeration or superstition, yet the consistency of certain details across distant regions and decades suggests something far more deliberate. The manuscript's creators and keepers were determined that it survive, yet only under the most careful eyes. There is also the tantalizing possibility that the manuscript's author or authors were not of this world in the conventional sense. Esoteric theorists have long suggested that the knowledge encoded within could not have come from ordinary observation alone. Its insights into human behavior, political strategy, and the unfolding of technological innovation seem to anticipate patterns decades, sometimes centuries in advance. Some scholars interpret this as evidence of divine inspiration, others as the result of secretive networks of knowledge, possibly connecting scholars across countries and generations. Whatever the truth, the manuscript's origins remain cloaked in shadow, offering tantalizing glimpses without ever revealing the full picture. The choice to remain hidden, or to encode knowledge so deeply, is itself a reflection of the manuscript's danger. If the text had been widely accessible, the consequences might have been catastrophic. Kings and generals who understood its predictions could have wielded unprecedented power. Ordinary citizens exposed to its prophecies might have caused panic or upheaval. This necessity for secrecy implies a sophistication in planning, suggesting that whoever created the manuscript anticipated the far-reaching implications of their work. Their goal was not simply to record, but to protect knowledge until the world was prepared, or perhaps to ensure that only those capable of comprehending it could ever act on it. Speculation about authorship is complicated further by the manuscript's stylistic inconsistencies. Some sections are precise, almost clinical in their description of events, while others are allegorical, poetic, or symbolic. It is as if multiple minds contributed, each bringing a distinct approach, one observing patterns of conflict, another encoding philosophical or spiritual insights, another warning of the moral consequences of humanity's actions. This diversity has fueled debate among scholars. Is it a single polymath, a collective effort, or a compilation updated over generations by different custodians? Each theory carries its own implications, yet none can be confirmed with certainty. Despite the uncertainties, the allure of discovering the manuscript's author persists. The very idea of tracing the hand that foresaw centuries of conflict ignites both fascination and fear. Was the author motivated by altruism, by a desire to guide humanity, or by obsession, ambition, and a hunger for control? Perhaps the most unsettling possibility is that the manuscript was created precisely to test humanity's response to knowledge, to see how far curiosity and ambition would carry those who dared to seek it. Every fragment that survives hints at intelligence far beyond its time, a mind or minds that understood not only history, but the mechanisms by which it repeats, escalates, and shapes the fate of nations. In the end, the question of who wrote the Forbidden Manuscript may remain forever unanswered, and perhaps that is precisely how it was intended. The mystery itself preserves its power, compelling generations to search, to decode, and to speculate. The shadow of its origins stretches across centuries, reminding us that some knowledge is too potent, too dangerous to ever be fully revealed. Yet this very uncertainty, the tantalizing suggestion of hidden wisdom waiting to be discovered, is what keeps the manuscript alive in legend, in whispers, and in the imagination of those willing to chase its secrets into the dark corridors of history. The Forbidden Manuscript is not merely a relic of the past. It is, according to whispers among scholars and cryptographers, a map of events that had yet to unfold at the time of its creation. Within its delicate, aged pages lies a series of predictions so precise that they have baffled historians for centuries. Wars erupting decades before the instruments of modern warfare existed, revolutions seemingly foreseen with almost journalistic detail, the rise and fall of nations carefully chronicled. These are the claims that have elevated the manuscript from mere curiosity to an object of obsession. Those who have studied it closely speak of patterns that seem impossible, a knowledge that transcends the boundaries of linear time. Some call it prophecy, others a complex system of coded observation. But all agree that its predictions are unlike anything found in ordinary historical texts. The manuscript does not announce its predictions openly. They are hidden in allegory, metaphor, and intricate symbolism. A battle described in a single paragraph might correspond to an event centuries later, masked by the use of obscure place names, obscure emblems, or seemingly innocuous narratives about kings, merchants, or wandering monks. One story recounts an uprising in a distant kingdom, detailed with the logistics of troops, political intrigue, and social unrest, all eerily resembling revolutions that occurred hundreds of years after the manuscript was written. Another fragment speaks of the fire that devours the iron chariots, which modern scholars have linked to the invention of tanks and mechanized warfare during the early 20th century. These descriptions, cryptic yet precise, suggest that the manuscript's author, or authors, possessed not only exceptional foresight, but also a sophisticated understanding of human behavior, politics, and technology. Beyond wars and revolutions, the manuscript hints at transformations in society and culture. It speaks of the rise of ideologies, shifts in trade and power, and technological inventions that would shape the modern world. In some passages, obscure symbols are arranged to mirror economic cycles, political alliances, and even demographic changes. Scholars have debated whether these sections represent actual predictions or simply the intuitive insight of a mind deeply attuned to the rhythms of history. Yet, the uncanny accuracy of some passages, particularly those corresponding to events in the 20th century, lends credibility to the notion that the manuscript was more than an intellectual exercise. It is a codex that bridges centuries, connecting past, present, and future in ways that challenge conventional notions of historical study. The manuscript's cryptic nature has made it extraordinarily difficult to study, which may be by design. Those who attempt to interpret its contents often find themselves confronted by layers of meaning that overlap and contradict one another. A single phrase can contain multiple interpretations, each valid depending on the reader's perspective or knowledge of history. Symbols can function as codes, maps, or philosophical statements simultaneously. Even the order of sections suggests an underlying architecture, a design meant to guide a careful reader through a mental and temporal journey. The text, in essence, demands not just intelligence, but intuition, patience, and perhaps a willingness to embrace the uncomfortable possibility that history is far more interconnected than traditional scholarship allows. Stories of those who have attempted to decode the manuscript abound, and many carry an air of danger and obsession. Early cryptographers reportedly spent years studying small fragments, only to be met with frustration, or worse, threats from those who wish to keep the manuscript's secrets hidden. Some accounts suggest that understanding even a single passage could grant insights so profound they might alter political or military decisions. This is why the manuscript has always attracted not only scholars, but also those in positions of power, kings, generals, and secretive organizations eager to harness knowledge before the wider world even realizes it exists. The very act of reading the text, therefore, becomes a risk, a confrontation with knowledge that may be too potent for the unprepared mind. Despite these challenges, tantalizing examples of its predictive power have emerged. One notable fragment is said to describe a global conflict triggered by complex alliances between nations, involving weapons and strategies that were unimaginable at the time of writing. Another speaks of revolutions fueled by ideologies and mass movements, with a specificity that has made scholars question whether the text is coincidence or something more profound. Even natural events, such as famines, epidemics, or societal collapse, appear in allegorical form, suggesting that the manuscript encompasses not only political and technological foresight, but also an understanding of human vulnerability and resilience. Yet, it is the subtlety of the manuscript that has ensured its survival. By hiding predictions in layers of metaphor and code, the author, or authors, protected the text from easy detection and misinterpretation. Those who came into possession of it may have recognized its importance, yet many could not fully comprehend it. This selective intelligibility served as a safeguard, ensuring that only those prepared, curious, and perhaps courageous enough could access the deepest truths. It is as if the manuscript itself were alive, testing the reader, filtering out the unworthy, and revealing its knowledge only to those capable of wielding it responsibly, or surviving the consequences of failure. The manuscript's predictions also raise profound questions about time and causality. If events centuries in the future can be anticipated with such clarity, what does that imply about free will and human agency? Are these prophecies inevitable, or merely possible outcomes that manifest only when certain conditions align? Scholars and mystics alike have debated these questions for centuries, with no definitive answers. What is clear, however, is that the manuscript demands attention not merely for its historical value, but for its philosophical implications. It challenges the notion that history is random, suggesting instead that it may follow patterns that only a few minds have ever fully perceived. Ultimately, the allure of the manuscript's strange predictions lies in their mixture of certainty and ambiguity. Each fragment is a doorway, a glimpse into a future that is at once terrifying and fascinating. Some see it as a warning, a map of potential disasters humanity could face if it ignores the lessons of the past. Others view it as a challenge, a puzzle meant to inspire ingenuity, foresight, and vigilance. And yet, despite centuries of speculation, the manuscript retains its mystique, offering tantalizing hints without ever yielding the complete picture. Its predictions, hidden in plain sight within allegory, code, and cryptic narrative, remain an open invitation to explore, decode, and question the very nature of time, knowledge, and human destiny. The journey of the Forbidden Manuscript through time is as much about disappearance as it is about revelation. For centuries, this extraordinary text has vanished from sight, slipping through the fingers of scholars, collectors, and even kings, leaving only traces in fragmented notes, cryptic references, and whispered stories. Its absence is not merely the result of chance or the passage of time. It seems, in many ways, deliberate. Fires, floods, wars, and natural decay have all played a role, yet there is a pervasive sense that powerful forces, those with the influence to rewrite history, sought to erase it, to remove knowledge that might have altered the course of human events. The manuscript's vanishing is not just a mystery of survival. It is a story of suppression, of history actively hiding a truth too potent, too dangerous to remain in public consciousness. Medieval libraries were among the first places where the manuscript appeared, though rarely in full. It was often kept in secret compartments, under lock and key, accessible only to the most trusted monks or scholars. Some records suggest that it was copied painstakingly, line by line, but even these copies were vulnerable. Fires consumed entire monasteries, erasing centuries of work in a single night. Wars ravaged cities, scattering documents to the winds, and yet some fragments of the manuscript endured, surviving in odd corners, hidden among seemingly mundane texts. The scarcity of surviving pieces only added to the manuscript's mystique, creating an aura of forbidden knowledge that has persisted across generations. Accounts of its disappearance are interwoven with tales of suppression. In certain kingdoms, rulers reportedly recognized the power of the manuscript and sought to control or even destroy it. The text was perceived as a threat to authority, capable of exposing secrets, predicting uprisings, or undermining political control. Secret orders, both religious and secular, may have been involved in removing it from public view, ensuring that only the chosen, or the lucky, would ever encounter it. Some historians describe clandestine efforts to relocate the manuscript from one safe haven to another, moving it across regions and even countries under the cover of night, always out of reach of those deemed unworthy or dangerous. The manuscript became not merely a book but a prize, a dangerous commodity whose value lay not in wealth but in knowledge itself. The manuscript suppression also extends to the academic world. Scholars who attempted to study it, even partially, often faced obstacles, ranging from academic ridicule to threats, and in extreme cases, sudden disappearance. One story recounts a historian who published a minor fragment, only to be discredited and effectively silenced, his work vanishing alongside him. Another speaks of a librarian who claimed to have seen the text in its entirety, only to die under mysterious circumstances before sharing what he had discovered. These stories, though sometimes unverifiable, paint a chilling picture of a world determined to forget, as if history itself conspired to hide knowledge that could disrupt accepted narratives or reveal uncomfortable truths. Yet, despite these efforts, the manuscript has refused to vanish entirely. Fragments have resurfaced in unexpected places, tucked into the bindings of other books, hidden among private collections, or discovered in the archives of obscure monasteries. Each fragment offers tantalizing glimpses of a larger, coherent work, yet always leaves more questions than answers. Scholars and cryptographers have labored for decades to piece together these fragments, often working in isolation to avoid attracting unwanted attention. The fragmented nature of the manuscript adds to its allure, turning every discovery into a small victory and every gap into a haunting mystery. The deliberate obfuscation of the manuscript's existence also raises broader questions about the nature of history itself. How much of what we know, or think we know, is shaped by what has been preserved versus what has been suppressed? Libraries are often seen as bastions of knowledge, but in the case of this manuscript, They have also been battlegrounds, arenas where information was guarded, stolen, and concealed. The manuscript challenges the very idea that history is a fixed record. Instead, it suggests that knowledge can be curated, hidden, and manipulated, leaving behind only fragments and echoes for those bold enough to search. In modern times, the manuscript continues to elude discovery in full, but the scattered pieces have inspired a new generation of seekers. Digital archives, private collections, and clandestine auctions have revealed glimpses of its cryptic symbols and prophetic passages. Scholars approach these fragments with a mix of awe and caution, aware that every discovery carries implications far beyond mere academic curiosity. The manuscript's vanishing is not just a story of loss. It is a testament to its enduring power, a reminder that knowledge, once deemed too dangerous, is rarely fully extinguished. Perhaps the most fascinating aspect of this vanishing is the sense of intention behind it. The manuscript's survival against deliberate efforts to erase it hints at a resilience, as if the text were itself aware of its significance, ensuring that while it might be hidden, it would never be completely lost. Every fragment recovered, every marginal note deciphered, is a small rebellion against the forces that sought to bury it. The manuscript's disappearance, then, is not merely a mystery. It is part of its story, a narrative of survival, secrecy, and the enduring human fascination with knowledge that cannot be fully controlled. The vanishing libraries, burned archives, and clandestine efforts to suppress the manuscript all contribute to a growing sense that this text is more than historical curiosity. It is a mirror of human ambition, fear, and obsession. In its absence, it has become legend. In its fragments, it has become prophecy. And in its elusiveness, it continues to captivate the imagination of all who seek to uncover the truth hidden in the shadows of history. The manuscript's journey through time reminds us that some knowledge is too dangerous to reveal, yet too compelling to ignore, and that history, like the text itself, often survives only in fragments, waiting for the curious and daring to piece together its story. One of the most haunting aspects of the Forbidden Manuscript is its language, a labyrinth of symbols, cryptic codes, and unfamiliar scripts that confound even the most skilled cryptographers. From the moment a fragment is revealed, it becomes immediately apparent that this is no ordinary historical document. Every line, every flourish of ink, every tiny emblem seems deliberate, a puzzle designed to conceal as much as it reveals. The manuscript does not hand its secrets to the casual observer. It demands patience, intellect, and a willingness to question the very nature of communication and meaning. It is a text built not only to record knowledge, but to test those who seek it, a challenge to the mind as much as a revelation to history. Early scholars attempting to decode the manuscript often found themselves baffled by its structure. Some pages appear to consist of ordinary prose, while others are filled with geometric shapes, interlocking circles, and patterns that suggest hidden relationships between words, numbers, and ideas. Allegorical illustrations, sometimes of cities, sometimes of abstract cosmic patterns, add layers of meaning that can take months or even years to decipher. In some cases, a single symbol might carry multiple interpretations depending on its placement, the surrounding text, or even the orientation of the page. For those who study the manuscript seriously, it quickly becomes clear that it was not merely written to convey information. It was constructed to encode thought itself, as if the author understood that knowledge, once revealed, carries consequences beyond comprehension. The numerical codes embedded within the manuscript are particularly intriguing. Scholars note repeated sequences, ratios, and patterns reminiscent of advanced mathematics long before their supposed invention. Some sequences correspond to historical dates, military strategies, or social upheavals, while others remain indecipherable, teasing the reader with the suggestion of hidden systems or laws governing human events. It is as though the manuscript operates on multiple planes simultaneously, a historical record, a prophetic guide, and a coded manual for understanding the forces that shape civilizations. Attempting to interpret these numbers is akin to piecing together a jigsaw puzzle without knowing the final image. It demands intuition as well as logic, and even then, certainty is elusive. Language itself is another obstacle. Sections of the manuscript appear to be written in dead or unknown tongues, some perhaps invented entirely by its creator. Scripts twist and fold in ways that defy conventional reading, creating the impression of a language designed for the eye as much as the mind. Letters may contain embedded symbols, words might be anagrams, and entire sentences can be read on multiple levels simultaneously. In many ways, the manuscript is more than a book. It is an immersive intellectual experience, challenging the reader to consider how meaning can exist in forms beyond ordinary comprehension. Each attempt to decode it feels like entering a hall of mirrors, where every reflection offers a new perspective but also threatens to obscure the truth further. Illustrations play an equally significant role. Across its pages are images of cities, rivers, armaments, and celestial alignments, often drawn with meticulous detail. At first glance, these might appear decorative or allegorical, yet careful analysis reveals subtle correspondences to actual geographic locations, military campaigns, or astronomical events. Maps appear to merge historical and future locations, blending reality with prophecy in ways that defy conventional logic. Cryptographers have suggested that the manuscript employs a form of symbolic cartography, encoding future events within representations of space and time. The effect is disorienting, exhilarating, and deeply mysterious, a visual language that complements the textual enigma. The manuscript's codes are also recursive. Deciphering one symbol or phrase often leads to a chain reaction, unlocking patterns in other sections. However, these discoveries are seldom straightforward. Misinterpretation can lead to dead ends, false connections, or even a complete misunderstanding of an entire fragment. Scholars describe moments of revelation followed by frustration, as layers of meaning unfold only to reveal further complexity beneath. It is a process of discovery that mirrors the manuscript's themes. History is layered, and knowledge is rarely complete, demanding constant vigilance, humility, and critical thinking. Stories of those who attempted to decode the manuscript are filled with a mixture of awe and terror. Some scholars report feeling an almost supernatural pressure, as if the text itself resisted comprehension. Others speak of intense obsession, devoting years to deciphering a single fragment while losing track of time, personal relationships, and even physical health. These accounts contribute to the manuscript's legend, reinforcing the notion that it is not merely a historical artifact, but a living challenge, one that tests the limits of human intellect, perseverance, and perhaps even sanity. Despite its complexity, tantalizing progress has been made. Cryptographers, historians, and mathematicians working independently or in secret have identified recurring motifs, structural patterns, and correlations between coded passages and historical events. Each breakthrough, however partial, has fueled speculation about the manuscript's true scope. Is it a complete record of human conflict and achievement, a prophetic guide, or a philosophical treatise hidden behind layers of code? The truth remains tantalizingly out of reach, as if the manuscript itself is a mirror reflecting the limits of human understanding. The manuscript's symbols and codes are more than intellectual exercises. They embody a philosophy of hidden knowledge. By embedding its predictions in complex systems, the author, or authors, ensured that only those who approach the text with care, dedication, and discernment could access its deeper truths. In this sense, the codes serve both as protection and as instruction, teaching the value of patience, observation, and critical thought. They are a testament to a worldview in which knowledge is power, but power must be earned, carefully considered, and responsibly applied. Ultimately, the manuscript's enigmatic language underscores the larger mystery at its heart. It is a book designed to exist between secrecy and revelation, between history and prophecy, between the known and the unknowable. To engage with it is to confront the limits of perception, the patterns hidden in the fabric of time, and the profound questions of destiny and foresight. Every symbol cracked, every code partially deciphered, brings the reader closer to understanding, but also reminds them that some knowledge, once glimpsed, can never be unlearned, and that the manuscript's ultimate truths may remain just beyond the reach of even the most dedicated seeker. The manuscript's most astonishing feature is not merely its cryptic language or enigmatic symbols, but its uncanny ability to anticipate conflicts centuries before they unfolded. From medieval skirmishes to modern global wars, fragments of the text seem to describe events with a specificity that challenges conventional historical understanding. Battles, alliances, betrayals, and even the movements of armies are rendered in allegorical or coded form, yet often align with actual events long after the manuscript was written. For historians and cryptographers who have studied it, these passages are both exhilarating and disconcerting, suggesting that someone, whether through extraordinary foresight, careful observation, or a combination of both, understood the patterns of human conflict in ways that transcend ordinary chronology. One fragment, for example, describes a rising tide of iron and fire spreading across kingdoms, destabilizing rulers who trusted in old alliances. While the language is metaphorical, scholars have drawn parallels to the onset of the 100 Years' War, where complex feudal loyalties and territorial ambitions ignited decades of sustained conflict. Another passage refers to men cloaked in smoke and shadow, moving swiftly across the land to claim crowns not their own, which some historians suggest corresponds to the series of coups, invasions, and succession disputes that punctuated late medieval Europe. These descriptions are rarely literal. Instead, they rely on imagery and coded references, allowing the manuscript to conceal its insights while still preserving a record of foresight. As time progresses, the manuscript's predictions appear to grow more detailed, moving closer to events recognizable to modern eyes. References to global alliances, technological innovations, and ideological movements suggest a remarkable awareness of forces that would shape the world centuries later. Certain passages seem to anticipate the rise of nation-states, the emergence of mechanized warfare, and even strategies employed in conflicts such as the Napoleonic Wars. Observers have noted that the manuscript's descriptions often include the logistical and human elements of conflict, supply chains, troop morale, the influence of leadership, and the societal consequences of warfare. This level of detail, centuries ahead of its time, is what has fueled speculation that the manuscript's author possessed knowledge far beyond contemporary experience. The manuscript does not limit itself to European conflicts. There are fragments that hint at distant wars, political upheavals, and revolutionary movements across Asia, the Middle East, and the Americas. These passages are often more obscure, relying on allegorical place names or symbolic representations of cultural and political entities. Yet, when decoded, they reveal patterns that eerily mirror real events, from the rise and fall of empires to revolutions that reshape societies. This global scope suggests that the manuscript was not merely an isolated curiosity of European scholars, but a comprehensive attempt to record or predict the trajectory of human conflict across continents and centuries. Historians who study the manuscript often highlight the thematic consistency of its predictions. Even when the imagery is abstract, recurring motifs emerge. The inevitability of power struggles, the cyclical nature of war, the rise of opportunistic leaders, and the consequences of societal neglect or moral decay. The manuscript seems to understand not only the mechanics of conflict, but also its underlying causes, presenting a vision of history as a series of interconnected events driven by human behavior. These insights are often couched in allegory, blending narrative, prophecy, and philosophical reflection, creating a text that operates simultaneously as a historical record, a guide, and a warning. The precision of these predictions has fueled both fascination and controversy. Skeptics argue that the correlations are coincidental, the product of retroactive interpretation or selective reading. Yet proponents point to the specificity of certain passages, the convergence of symbolic imagery with actual events, and the repeated accuracy across multiple centuries as evidence of extraordinary foresight. Some even speculate that the manuscript operates according to a system of observation and deduction so advanced that it borders on the prophetic, blending empirical knowledge with insight into human nature, political strategy, and societal dynamics. Stories of those who have attempted to trace the manuscript's predictions are filled with intrigue. Scholars and collectors report experiences of sudden revelations, as if entire sequences of events snap into coherence when a particular symbol or phrase is decoded. Others describe the opposite: frustration and obsession, spending years attempting to align allegorical passages with historical events, only to find themselves deeper in complexity. These accounts reinforce the sense that the manuscript is not merely a record of events, but an active engagement with history, a text designed to challenge, instruct, and perhaps even warn those who study it. The manuscript's predictive power also extends to smaller, seemingly trivial events, which adds to its mystique. References to economic fluctuations, societal unrest, and localized uprisings, when correlated with historical records, suggest that the author or authors observed not only large-scale wars but also the subtler forces shaping human history. This attention to detail, paired with global scope, creates a vision of history that is remarkably interconnected. Nothing exists in isolation, and even minor events can ripple across continents, influencing conflicts centuries later. Perhaps most compelling is the sense that the manuscript's predictions are not static. As fragments are discovered and interpreted, patterns emerge that allow historians to anticipate subsequent events, suggesting that the manuscript functions as both a historical record and a tool for understanding the mechanics of human conflict. It is as if the author recognized that knowledge is iterative. The past informs the future, and understanding one event allows glimpses of others yet to come. This recursive quality, where prophecy mirrors history, challenges conventional scholarship and imbues the manuscript with a sense of timeless relevance. Ultimately, the manuscript's ability to predict wars before they happened is a testament to its complexity and the brilliance, or perhaps obsession, of its creator. It bridges centuries, connecting medieval Europe to modern conflicts, weaving a tapestry of insight that defies ordinary chronology. For those who study it, the manuscript is more than a text. It is a window into the mechanisms of power, the cycles of human behavior, and the enduring mysteries of history itself. Every fragment uncovered reinforces the idea that some knowledge is both ancient and prescient, waiting silently through the centuries for those daring enough to decode its secrets. By the dawn of the modern era, whispers of the Forbidden Manuscript had spread far beyond the cloisters of medieval monasteries and the secretive halls of aristocratic estates. Despite centuries of careful guardianship, fragments began to surface, and a few daring scholars took the audacious step of attempting to study, or even speak of, the text. These early modern encounters with the manuscript reveal a tense interplay between revelation and suppression, between curiosity and fear, as those who came close to understanding its secrets navigated a dangerous terrain of academic intrigue, political pressure, and personal peril. In the late 17th and early 18th centuries, the manuscript began appearing in obscure libraries and private collections, often miscatalogued or hidden among more mundane works. Scholars who stumbled upon fragments were immediately confronted with the challenge of deciphering symbols, codes, and allegorical passages that had survived intact through centuries of careful protection. These early investigators were sometimes dismissed as eccentric or obsessive, yet their meticulous notes and transcriptions preserve crucial pieces of the manuscript for posterity. Among them were cryptographers fascinated by its numerical sequences, historians intrigued by its uncanny alignment with events, and philosophers drawn to its layered allegories. Each approached the manuscript differently, yet all were united by the same mixture of fascination and trepidation. The risks were real and sometimes deadly. Some scholars who attempted to reveal fragments faced immediate consequences. There are accounts of academic censure, confiscation of manuscripts, or threats of imprisonment. In extreme cases, individuals reportedly disappeared under mysterious circumstances shortly after claiming to have studied or interpreted the text. These dangers reflect the manuscript's enduring potency. Knowledge too powerful, or perhaps too destabilizing, could not be exposed lightly. The very act of speaking about it became an act of courage or recklessness, testing the limits of human curiosity against forces intent on preserving secrecy. Among the earliest documented modern scholars was a figure often referred to only in cryptic letters and marginal notes, a polymath who devoted decades to studying fragments preserved in private collections. This individual reportedly began noticing patterns that mirrored recent historical events, leading him to suspect that the manuscript's predictions extended far beyond medieval conflicts. His transcriptions, though incomplete, show a sophisticated attempt to map allegorical passages to real-world developments, including economic fluctuations, political upheavals, and regional conflicts. These early studies laid the groundwork for subsequent generations of scholars, offering tantalizing hints of the manuscript's scope while also highlighting the profound difficulty of interpretation. The first modern leaks were often partial, limited to fragments or summaries, yet they generated waves of fascination and suspicion. Word of these fragments spread among intellectual circles, sometimes intentionally, other times by accident. Rumors of secret councils, hidden libraries, and coded manuscripts captured the imagination of scholars and elites alike. Governments and influential organizations took notice as well, recognizing that possession or knowledge of such a text could provide a strategic advantage or pose a threat. The tension between exposure and concealment intensified, creating an atmosphere of intrigue reminiscent of espionage. Every discovery carried implications not only for scholarship, but also for power. One recurring theme in these early leaks was the tension between understanding and misinterpretation. Scholars reported instances where partial readings suggested catastrophic predictions or moral warnings, which were often sensationalized or distorted in the process of sharing information. Some fragments were misread entirely, leading to flawed interpretations that sparked controversy or alarm. These challenges underscore the manuscript's complexity. It was designed not to be easily understood, and every attempt to extract its knowledge without careful study risked both error and consequence. In many ways, the very act of leaking information was a test of intellectual and ethical preparedness. Despite these challenges, some leaks were remarkably precise. Early modern readers noted passages describing revolutions, territorial conflicts, and societal upheavals in ways that resonated with contemporary events. While skeptics dismissed these alignments as coincidence, the recurrence of accurate correspondences across multiple fragments lent credibility to claims of the manuscript's predictive power. Scholars began to speculate that the text contained a system for understanding not only historical events, but also the underlying causes of human behavior, political strategy, and social dynamics. Each fragment revealed a pattern, and each pattern suggested that the manuscript operated on a level far beyond ordinary historical writing. The tension between revelation and suppression became increasingly evident as the manuscript entered public consciousness, even in fragmentary form. Institutions that controlled access to rare texts, monastic orders, aristocratic libraries, and early national archives, acted cautiously, aware that the manuscript's knowledge could be disruptive. Scholars, meanwhile, risked both professional ridicule and real danger by attempting to publish analyses or transcriptions. The result was a delicate balance. Fragments of the manuscript were shared, studied, and sometimes misinterpreted, yet full disclosure remained elusive. This dynamic reflects a broader pattern in the manuscript's history. Knowledge was always mediated, controlled, and protected, ensuring that the text retained both its mystique and its power. These early modern encounters also introduced the first inklings of a global perspective. Scholars began noting that the manuscript's predictions were not confined to European conflicts, but included distant regions, cultural shifts, and even early technological developments. Though only partially understood, these hints suggested a comprehensive view of human history, one that transcended geography and chronology. The fragments preserved by these scholars became seeds for later investigations, inspiring generations of cryptographers, historians, and researchers to pursue the manuscript across continents and centuries. Ultimately, the first modern leaks highlight the dual nature of the manuscript. It is both a source of profound insight and a dangerous artifact. Those who dared to study it were rewarded with glimpses of hidden knowledge. Yet they also confronted the realities of suppression, misinterpretation, and risk. The fragments that emerged during this period serve as a bridge between centuries of secrecy and a modern era of scholarly investigation, demonstrating that the manuscript's allure and its power remained undiminished. Through these early encounters, the text continued to challenge assumptions, provoke curiosity, and remind humanity that some knowledge, though forbidden or fragmentary, is impossible to fully contain. The Forbidden Manuscript has never existed in isolation. Throughout its history, it has intersected with secret societies and esoteric orders, organizations dedicated to guarding, interpreting, and sometimes exploiting knowledge that the wider world was not meant to possess. These groups operated in the shadows, creating networks of influence and protection that spanned continents and centuries. For them, the manuscript was more than a text. It was a symbol of power, a repository of wisdom, and a tool for understanding the forces shaping human destiny. Its connection to these clandestine circles adds layers of intrigue, suggesting that the manuscript's survival and its cryptic design was intimately tied to the ambitions and secrecy of these hidden orders. Accounts of the manuscript's custodians often mention obscure societies with enigmatic rituals, allegorical teachings, and coded communications. Some were religious in origin, emerging from monastic orders with a mystical approach to knowledge. Others were secular or quasi-political, using esoteric philosophy as a means to influence or advise rulers. A recurring theme among these groups is the belief that knowledge is inherently dangerous and must be carefully guarded. The manuscript, with its predictive power and encoded insights, was considered the ultimate test of discernment and loyalty. Only those capable of understanding its complex layers could be trusted with its fragments. Among the most frequently mentioned are societies that combined intellectual rigor with secrecy, often known only through indirect references in letters, journals, and marginalia in other manuscripts. These groups appear to have had sophisticated methods of cataloging and transmitting knowledge. Some developed intricate cipher systems inspired by the manuscript itself, embedding warnings, allegories, and instructions for future generations. Others relied on oral transmission, passing down fragments of the text along with interpretations that might take decades to fully comprehend. This combination of written and oral tradition ensured continuity while maintaining secrecy, creating a layered web of guardianship that protected the manuscript from discovery or misuse. The manuscript's influence on these secret societies was not merely academic. It shaped philosophy, strategy, and even political maneuvering within their ranks. Leaders and initiates studied its coded passages to understand human behavior, anticipate conflicts, and discern patterns that others could not see. Some fragments were treated as prophetic guides, offering insight into potential revolutions, wars, and societal transformations. Others were interpreted as moral or spiritual instructions, suggesting that the manuscript's creators intended its knowledge to be applied responsibly, not exploited recklessly. Within these orders, the text became a cornerstone of education, a practical as well as esoteric guide for navigating the complexities of power and human ambition. The manuscript also functioned as a form of initiation. Possession or understanding of even a fragment could signify that an individual had achieved a certain level of intellectual and moral discernment. In some cases, candidates for membership were required to demonstrate their ability to decode symbolic passages, interpret allegorical warnings, or synthesize insights across multiple fragments. Success in these tests often granted access to additional materials or privileged interpretations, creating a hierarchy of knowledge within the society. Failure, conversely, could result in exclusion, suspicion, or, in extreme legends, punishment. In this way, the manuscript served both as a gatekeeper and as a tool for preserving the integrity of the order. The relationship between the manuscript and secret societies also sheds light on why it survived while so many other texts were lost. Societies invested resources, ingenuity, and decades of effort into safeguarding the text. They relocated it across borders, encoded it in different languages, and passed it through trusted custodians. These efforts were not merely about preservation, but about control. The manuscript's knowledge was deemed too powerful to be widely accessible. By embedding it within the structures of secret societies, the creators and early custodians ensured that it could endure centuries of political upheaval, natural disasters, and deliberate suppression. Yet this guardianship came with a cost. The secrecy surrounding the manuscript often led to paranoia, internal disputes, and even betrayal within these societies. Rival factions competed for access to its fragments, and in some cases, fragments were stolen, hidden, or destroyed to prevent perceived misuse. This tension mirrors the broader narrative of the manuscript itself, a powerful, enigmatic force that simultaneously inspires awe and fear, demanding vigilance and cunning from those who dare to engage with it. The stories of rivalry and intrigue highlight the manuscript's dual nature as both a source of knowledge and a catalyst for human ambition, desire, and conflict. The influence of these secret societies extended beyond their own circles. Fragments of the manuscript, or knowledge derived from it, sometimes reached rulers, military leaders, or intellectuals who were unwittingly drawn into its orbit. The text's cryptic predictions and coded advice could shape strategies, inspire innovations, or guide political decisions. While direct evidence of such influence is scarce, by design, the circumstantial connections between the manuscript and historical developments suggest that it played a subtle, yet profound, role in shaping the course of history. In the modern era, the manuscript's connection to secret societies continues to fuel speculation. Researchers and enthusiasts have traced patterns, correspondences, and recurring symbols that suggest a continuity of custodianship from medieval monastic orders to contemporary esoteric circles. While many claims are speculative, the consistency of certain motifs, codes, symbols, and thematic interpretations points to a deliberate strategy of preservation and transmission. These connections reinforce the idea that the manuscript is not merely a historical artifact, but a living conduit of knowledge, one whose power and significance have been carefully managed across centuries. Ultimately, the manuscript association with secret societies underscores the complexity of its existence. It is a text that has survived not only because of its physical durability, but because it was embedded within networks of human guardianship, intellect, and devotion. These hidden orders ensured that knowledge, even when dangerous or controversial, could endure, filtered through generations of careful study and cautious application. The manuscript's journey through the hands of these societies reveals a world in which history, secrecy, and foresight intertwine, creating a legacy that is at once mysterious, instructive, and profoundly compelling. The Forbidden Manuscript's cryptic nature is not limited to its historical predictions or its coded language. It extends deeply into the realm of esoteric philosophy. Every symbol, illustration, and allegorical passage appears to be carefully designed not just to convey information, but to impart a worldview, a philosophy of knowledge, time, and human destiny. These symbols function as keys, revealing hidden layers of meaning to those willing to look beyond the literal and embrace the subtle interplay of allegory, mathematics, and cosmology. To engage with the manuscript is to step into a universe where knowledge is multidimensional, where understanding requires both intellectual rigor and intuitive insight, and where the boundary between reality and symbolism is deliberately blurred. One striking feature of the manuscript is its recurrent use of geometric forms. Circles, triangles, and interlocking patterns appear throughout its pages, often intertwined with illustrations of celestial bodies, human figures, and architectural motifs. At first glance, these shapes may appear decorative or even whimsical, yet careful study reveals complex relationships among them. Scholars suggest that these geometric symbols encode philosophical principles, cycles of history, the balance of power, and the interconnectedness of human societies. Circles might represent recurring patterns or inevitabilities. Triangles could signify hierarchy, strategy, or the interplay of forces. The manuscript's geometric language operates on multiple levels, simultaneously conveying aesthetic beauty, symbolic meaning, and hidden knowledge. Numbers also play a central role. Numerical sequences, ratios, and symbolic calculations appear intertwined with textual passages, reflecting a worldview in which mathematics and philosophy converge. Some sequences correspond to historical events, while others appear to map cosmic or societal cycles. The manuscript seems to suggest that history is not random, but governed by patterns and principles that can be discerned by those patient enough to study its layers. This integration of mathematics, symbolism, and allegory creates a multidimensional framework in which the manuscript's predictions and philosophical teachings coexist, forming a cohesive vision of the world that is as intellectual as it is mystical. The esoteric symbols also function pedagogically, guiding readers through complex concepts and tests of comprehension. The manuscript seems to be aware of its audience, revealing truths gradually, in proportion to the reader's diligence and insight. A single symbol may have multiple interpretations depending on the context. It could indicate a moral principle, a historical trend, or a predictive insight. This layered approach ensures that the manuscript remains a living text, challenging each generation of readers to engage with it anew, to discover connections that others might overlook, and to confront the philosophical implications of foresight and hidden knowledge. Beyond mathematics and geometry, the manuscript employs cosmological symbolism. Celestial bodies, planetary alignments, and abstract representations of time recur throughout the text. These symbols suggest that the author perceived human history not as an isolated narrative, but as part of a broader cosmic order. Wars, revolutions, and societal shifts are depicted in relation to cycles of celestial influence, implying that human events follow patterns that mirror universal rhythms. This perspective elevates the manuscript beyond prophecy or historical record. It becomes a philosophical treatise on the nature of causality, destiny, and the interdependence of human actions and cosmic forces. The integration of morality and ethics is another critical aspect. Many symbols carry implicit warnings or lessons about the use of knowledge, the consequences of ambition, and the responsibilities inherent in power. The manuscript repeatedly emphasizes that foresight is not merely an intellectual exercise, but a moral endeavor. Understanding the patterns of history entails recognizing human limitations, anticipating consequences, and acting with wisdom. This ethical dimension reinforces the manuscript's role as more than a predictive tool. It is a guide to living responsibly within the complex web of societal, political, and cosmic forces. Interpretation of these symbols often requires multidisciplinary expertise. Cryptographers, historians, mathematicians, and philosophers must collaborate to decode the layered meanings embedded in the manuscript. A single passage might require understanding allegorical storytelling, geometric principles, historical context, and esoteric philosophy simultaneously. This multidisciplinary approach mirrors the manuscript's philosophy itself. Knowledge is interconnected, requiring holistic perception and the ability to synthesize information from diverse domains. Those who approach it piecemeal risk misunderstanding its purpose or misapplying its insights. The manuscript's symbols also hint at hidden networks of knowledge and influence. Certain motifs recur across different historical periods, suggesting that the author or custodians intended to create a framework that could guide readers across centuries. This deliberate layering reinforces the idea that knowledge, particularly knowledge of human history and destiny, must be preserved, contextualized, and transmitted carefully. The symbols function both as protective codes and as pedagogical tools, shaping the intellectual and moral development of those who study them. Perhaps most intriguingly, the manuscript's esoteric philosophy challenges conventional notions of time. Cyclical patterns, recurrent motifs, and layered allegories suggest that events are interconnected across centuries. This perspective implies that the past, present, and future are not discrete points, but overlapping currents in which understanding one moment can illuminate another. The manuscript's symbols encode this temporal philosophy, teaching readers that history is a tapestry woven from actions, consequences, and patterns, and that foresight is as much about perceiving relationships as predicting outcomes. Finally, the esoteric dimension of the manuscript underscores its enduring allure. It is not merely a historical curiosity, nor solely a predictive tool. It is a philosophical artifact, a guide to understanding the hidden structures of reality, the cycles of human events, and the ethical responsibilities of knowledge. Its symbols challenge readers to think critically, act responsibly, and engage with the universe on multiple levels simultaneously. In this way, the manuscript transcends the ordinary, offering a vision of knowledge as profound, layered, and inseparable from the very act of living thoughtfully within history's intricate currents. As the manuscript moved closer to the modern era, its predictive capacity becomes increasingly striking, aligning with events that transformed the world between the 18th and 20th centuries. These centuries, marked by revolutions, industrialization, and global conflict, reveal the manuscript's uncanny ability to capture the patterns of human ambition, political maneuvering, and societal upheaval. While earlier sections focused on medieval wars and fragmented foresight, these modern predictions demonstrate a clarity and detail that suggest either extraordinary prescience or knowledge, so advanced it appears prophetic. Scholars and researchers who have studied these fragments are often left both amazed and unnerved, as the manuscript seems to anticipate wars, revolutions, and ideological struggles with remarkable accuracy. One striking example concerns the manuscript's allegorical depiction of revolutions. A passage describes the burning of old orders as men rise with banners of unseen colors, accompanied by cryptic numerical sequences and symbolic illustrations of cities engulfed in flames. Interpreted centuries later, these passages appear to correspond to the American Revolution, the French Revolution, and other political upheavals across Europe and the Americas. While the manuscript does not provide explicit names or dates, the combination of symbolic imagery, geographical hints, and coded sequences allows careful readers to reconstruct the context, revealing a startling alignment with historical events that reshaped governments and social hierarchies. Similarly, the manuscript appears to anticipate the rise of industrial power and the global conflicts that followed. Fragments speak of machines that roar like dragons, reshaping the land and sky, and nations clashing as the thunder of iron spreads across the world. Many historians see these passages as prescient descriptions of the Industrial Revolution, mechanized warfare, and the conflicts that emerged as nations vied for dominance in the modern age. The manuscript does not merely record technological advancements. It captures their societal and political implications, suggesting that the author understood how innovation interacts with human ambition, resource competition, and the inevitability of conflict. World Wars I and II, in particular, appear in the manuscript's allegorical narratives. Passages describe a great conflagration where alliances shift like shadows, and the world trembles under the march of armies and the cries of nations. Cryptographers have identified sequences and symbolic maps that correspond to the geographic theaters, alliances, and even the rapid mobilization of forces seen during these global conflicts. While skeptics argue that these alignments could be coincidental or retroactively interpreted, the consistency of imagery, timing, and symbolic correlation across multiple fragments has convinced many researchers that the manuscript was constructed with extraordinary insight into the mechanics of human conflict, geopolitics, and the unpredictable consequences of mass mobilization. The manuscript's predictions extend beyond war to encompass social upheaval and ideological transformation. Passages describe fires of thought that ignite the minds of the oppressed, which some interpret as foreshadowing movements for civil rights, decolonization, and revolutionary ideologies that reshape societies. Cryptographers and historians note that these symbolic descriptions often anticipate not only major events but also subtle cultural shifts, highlighting the manuscript's capacity to encode knowledge about societal change in a manner that is simultaneously cryptic and accurate. This interplay of political, technological, and social insight demonstrates the manuscript's holistic approach to forecasting human history. Economic turbulence also appears within the text. Fragmentary sequences describe the rise and fall of wealth, the collapse of institutions, and the destabilization of societies due to greed, mismanagement, or systemic corruption. Some passages, when decoded, align with financial crises, such as the Great Depression, showing the manuscript's prescience extends beyond battles and borders to the complex dynamics of economies and human decision-making. These insights suggest that the author or authors recognize patterns that transcend politics and warfare, capturing fundamental principles governing human behavior, societal resilience, and the cyclical nature of prosperity and decline. Interpretation of these modern predictions has been fraught with difficulty. Scholars must navigate layers of symbolism, allegory, and encrypted sequences to identify connections with real events. Misinterpretation is a constant risk, yet the repeated alignment of separate fragments with independent historical records strengthens the argument that the manuscript contains a systematic method of observation and foresight. Some researchers posit that the text operates like an intricate algorithm, blending empirical knowledge with philosophical reasoning, allowing it to project patterns that human eyes could not otherwise discern. The result is a manuscript that feels simultaneously prophetic, analytical, and profoundly human in its understanding of ambition, error, and consequence. The manuscript's influence, or perceived influence, on intellectual circles during these centuries is another layer of intrigue. Rumors abound that fragments were studied in secret by advisors, statesmen, and military strategists who may have subtly integrated its insights into decision-making processes. While evidence remains circumstantial, the possibility adds a conspiratorial dimension. Knowledge of future conflicts may have informed strategy, diplomacy, and even policy, further entangling the manuscript with the currents of history it seems to anticipate. Whether real or legendary, these associations reinforce the text's mystique, blending scholarship, secrecy, and speculation into a narrative that continues to captivate. Moreover, the manuscript's predictions often emphasize cause and effect, illustrating that human actions, misjudgments, and moral failings ripple across time. Wars are not presented as random events, but as consequences of ambition, neglect, and societal imbalance. Ideological revolutions are framed as responses to inequity, oppression, or systemic injustice. Even technological advancements are shown to carry ethical and societal consequences, warning that progress untempered by wisdom can lead to catastrophe. This layered approach underscores the manuscript's philosophical depth. It is not merely a predictive text, but a moral and strategic guide, offering insight into the interconnectedness of human decisions and historical outcomes. Finally, the manuscript's modern predictions invite reflection on the broader patterns of history. Its fragments suggest that while human events may appear chaotic, underlying structures, cycles, and principles govern the rise and fall of societies. Wars, revolutions, and technological upheavals are not isolated phenomena, but components of larger historical and philosophical systems encoded within the text. This perspective challenges conventional historiography, suggesting that the manuscript's creator, or creators, understood the interplay of human ambition, societal forces, and the inexorable patterns of history in a way that is both rigorous and visionary. The 18th to 20th centuries thus reveal the manuscript's unique capacity to bridge past, present, and future. It is a text that connects medieval allegory with modern events, weaving symbols, codes, and philosophy into a narrative that both predicts and instructs. For researchers, the manuscript is more than a historical artifact. It is a lens through which the cycles of human conflict, innovation, and societal transformation can be examined. Every decoded passage affirms its enduring significance, reminding us that knowledge, carefully preserved and interpreted, has the power to illuminate the patterns of human history in ways that defy ordinary understanding. As the manuscript entered the 20th century, its cryptic foresight appeared to align with some of the most transformative and devastating events in human history. 2 world wars, regional conflicts, the rise and fall of empires, and the emergence of ideologies that reshape societies all seem to echo the allegorical and coded passages of the manuscript. What is particularly striking is not merely the occurrence of these events, but the way the text anticipates not only the geopolitical shifts, but also the technological and psychological aspects of modern warfare. To scholars and enthusiasts who examine these fragments, the manuscript reads as both a chronicle and a warning, a bridge between prophecy and recorded history, demonstrating an astonishing understanding of human behavior, ambition, and systemic forces. Fragments of the manuscript from this era describe fires spreading beyond borders, consuming alliances as if they were fragile paper, accompanied by coded sequences and symbolic depictions of armies moving like rivers across continents. Many researchers interpret these passages as prescient references to World War I and World War II, highlighting not just the battles themselves, but the shifting alliances, rapid mobilizations, and ideological motivations that define modern conflict. The manuscript's predictive language captures the complexity of these events in ways that conventional historical documents cannot, framing them as part of a larger pattern of human ambition, failure, and adaptation. One of the manuscript's most chilling aspects is its portrayal of industrialized warfare. Passages describe machines that roar with the fury of 1,000 storms, referencing weapons and vehicles that reshape both the battlefield and the societies that produce them. Scholars have drawn parallels between these descriptions and the mechanization of war in the 20th century: tanks, aircraft, artillery, and the logistics systems that enabled unprecedented destruction. These allegorical depictions suggest a deep awareness of the interplay between technological innovation and human conflict, demonstrating that the manuscript's insights extend beyond mere historical recounting to strategic and philosophical understanding of war itself. The text also anticipates the psychological dimensions of modern conflict. Descriptions of fear moving unseen through cities, corroding trust and loyalty, correspond to the use of propaganda, espionage, and psychological warfare that became central during the World Wars and subsequent global tensions. The manuscript does not merely predict battles and alliances. It perceives the subtle currents of fear, ambition, and ideology that drive human decision-making and shape the outcomes of large-scale conflicts. These insights reinforce the idea that the manuscript is both prophetic and analytical, merging observation of human behavior with allegorical foresight. The rise and fall of empires and ideologies is another recurring theme. Fragments suggest that centralized powers, however dominant, are ultimately vulnerable to both internal decay and external pressure. Allegories of castles built upon shifting sand and leaders blinded by the glare of their ambition seem to correspond to the collapse of colonial empires, the downfall of totalitarian regimes, and the emergence of new global powers. The manuscript's symbolic language captures the cyclical nature of history, emphasizing that political and military dominance is fragile and contingent upon both moral and strategic foresight. Civil unrest, social movements, and ideological revolutions also appear in the text. References to masses awakened by the fire of knowledge and voices rising where silence once reigned correspond to labor movements, civil rights campaigns, anti-colonial uprisings, and revolutionary ideologies that marked the 20th century. The manuscript demonstrates not only an awareness of military and political power, but also of the societal forces that drive transformation, suggesting a sophisticated understanding of social dynamics and human motivation. These insights extend the manuscript's predictive capacity beyond battlefield strategy to the broader currents of human history. Economic turbulence is likewise a recurring element. Sequences of coded symbols describe periods of scarcity, collapse, and recovery that correspond closely to events such as the Great Depression, post-war economic booms, and subsequent crises. These passages underscore the manuscript's holistic perspective. It recognizes that warfare, ideology, and societal stability are deeply interconnected with economic structures. By integrating economic insight into its predictions, the text functions as a guide not only to human conflict, but also to the systemic forces that shape civilizations over time. The manuscript's influence, or at least its perceived relevance, continued in modern times. Scholars, military analysts, and esoteric societies have reportedly taken an interest in its insights, studying fragments that might inform strategy, diplomacy, or social understanding. While direct evidence of application is scarce and often anecdotal, the narrative of clandestine study persists, adding to the manuscript's mystique. It suggests that knowledge of potential futures has always been mediated by secrecy, ethics, and the capacity for interpretation, a theme that echoes throughout the manuscript's history. One of the manuscript's most compelling features in the modern era is its reflection on human responsibility. Unlike purely prophetic texts, it repeatedly emphasizes that knowledge of future events is a moral burden. Allegories of choices shaping the river's course and the shadow of inaction deepening the abyss indicate that while patterns can be discerned, outcomes are not fixed. This philosophical dimension sets the manuscript apart from ordinary predictive texts. It teaches that foresight carries responsibility and that human agency can alter even the most seemingly inevitable historical trajectories. In the 21st century, the manuscript retains its enigmatic relevance. Fragmentary passages, recently analyzed with modern cryptographic techniques, suggest awareness of emerging global tensions, technological transformations, and social shifts. While the specifics remain coded and open to interpretation, the symbolic and philosophical frameworks embedded in the text allow it to resonate with contemporary issues. Conflicts over resources, ideological polarization, and the ethical challenges posed by technological advancement. In this sense, the manuscript is timeless. Its insights as applicable now as they were in centuries past, inviting reflection on the enduring patterns of human behavior and the responsibilities of foresight. Ultimately, the manuscript's engagement with 20th to 21st century conflicts underscores its multidimensional nature. It is simultaneously historical, predictive, and philosophical, blending allegory, symbolism, and analytical observation to create a text that transcends conventional boundaries. Its survival, interpretation, and continued study reveal a document that is not merely a curiosity, but a living repository of knowledge, challenging readers to consider the past, present, and future in an interconnected and ethically informed manner. The text reminds us that while history may seem unpredictable, underlying patterns, moral principles, and human choices weave together in ways that can be discerned, if one possesses the diligence, insight, and courage to read between the lines. In the contemporary era, the Forbidden Manuscript has attracted unprecedented attention from scholars, cryptographers, historians, and even amateur enthusiasts, all drawn by its enigmatic language, predictive passages, and layers of esoteric symbolism. Unlike earlier periods where access was limited to secret societies or privileged custodians, modern technology, global communication, and interdisciplinary scholarship have created a unique environment for collaborative decoding efforts. Yet, even with these advantages, the manuscript remains an intellectual Everest, challenging researchers with its intricate codes, symbolic complexity, and the ever-present risk of misinterpretation. The modern race to decode, it has become a story of obsession, brilliance, and intrigue, echoing the manuscript's long history of secrecy and revelation. Cryptography has been at the forefront of these efforts. The manuscript's interlocking numerical sequences, repeated patterns, and layered cipher systems present a formidable challenge even for advanced analysts. Early breakthroughs came when scholars recognized that the text did not follow conventional linguistic or mathematical rules. Instead, it employs a hybrid system of symbology, numerology, and allegorical encoding, requiring novel approaches to analysis. Teams of mathematicians and cryptographers began applying computational methods, frequency analysis, and pattern recognition algorithms to uncover recurring motifs and structural relationships that could hint at underlying meanings. These methods, while powerful, revealed only fragments of the manuscript's logic, leaving as much mystery intact as was unveiled. Interdisciplinary collaboration became essential. Linguists, historians, philosophers, and experts in art and symbolism pooled knowledge to interpret sections that were visually complex or conceptually abstract. Illustrations, geometric designs, and marginalia were analyzed alongside textual passages, revealing that decoding the manuscript was as much about understanding cultural, historical, and philosophical context as it was about breaking numerical or linguistic codes. For instance, a geometric arrangement might correspond to a political alliance, a philosophical principle, or even a series of military campaigns, demonstrating the manuscript's multidimensional encoding. The modern investigative approach emphasizes synthesis. Only by integrating insights across disciplines can the manuscript's profound complexity begin to emerge. The human element remains as important as technology. Researchers describe moments of revelation that are not solely analytical but intuitive, requiring leaps of imagination and pattern recognition that machines alone cannot provide. These aha moments often occur after months of painstaking study, when cryptographers or historians recognize alignments between symbolic motifs, numerical sequences, and historical events. Such discoveries, however partial, provide tantalizing confirmation that the manuscript operates according to a coherent internal logic, even if its full system remains elusive. This blend of rigorous computation and human intuition mirrors the manuscript's original philosophy. Understanding requires both reason and insight. Despite advances, the manuscript continues to confound. Sections appear recursive, where decoding one symbol or phrase unlocks relationships in other parts of the text, but only if approached correctly. Misinterpretation can create cascading errors, leading scholars down false paths or obscuring previously discernible patterns. These challenges reinforce the manuscript's legendary difficulty and its philosophical emphasis on diligence, patience, and moral discernment. Each discovery is a victory, but every misstep reminds researchers that the manuscript is designed to test intellect, perseverance, and ethical judgment as much as it conveys historical or predictive knowledge. Competition and secrecy are not confined to the manuscript's medieval custodians. Even in the modern era, factions of researchers operate independently, guarding discoveries closely while racing to decode fragments before others. Academic institutions, private collectors, and online communities all contribute to a complex ecosystem of revelation and rivalry. Stories abound of partial decodings being hidden, encrypted archives being guarded jealously, and heated debates over interpretive authority. These dynamics echo the manuscript's long history, underscoring that knowledge of its secrets carries both prestige and responsibility. Technological tools have introduced new possibilities. High-resolution imaging, digital mapping, and artificial intelligence allow researchers to detect subtle patterns in ink density, page layout, and symbol frequency that were previously invisible. Computational models attempt to reconstruct sequences of events or symbolic correspondences, enabling a systematic exploration of the manuscript's predictive framework. Yet, even with these tools, the manuscript resists full comprehension, a reminder that human judgment and historical insight remain indispensable. Technology enhances analysis, but cannot replace the nuanced interpretation required to navigate the manuscript's philosophical, historical, and symbolic layers. Collaboration across borders has accelerated progress. Scholars in Europe, Asia, and the Americas contribute insights, share findings, and attempt to cross-verify interpretations. Digital platforms allow fragments scattered across private collections and museums to be analyzed collectively, revealing patterns that were previously inaccessible. This globalization of research mirrors the manuscript's own apparent scope, suggesting that understanding its wisdom requires a similarly broad perspective, one that integrates history, culture, mathematics, and philosophy on a global scale. The stakes of modern investigation are both intellectual and ethical. The manuscript's history demonstrates that knowledge, once revealed, has consequences. Predictions can influence decisions, interpretations can inspire actions, and misunderstandings can be dangerous. Scholars today are acutely aware of these risks, often emphasizing caution, peer review, and the ethical responsibilities inherent in studying a text of such power. The pursuit of knowledge is exhilarating, yet tempered by a recognition that the manuscript's insights must be approached with respect, rigor, and humility. Finally, the race to decode the manuscript illuminates its enduring allure. Each breakthrough, partial or complete, adds to its mystique, demonstrating the intellectual and philosophical depths it contains. Researchers report moments of profound connection, when a pattern aligns across centuries or a coded phrase resonates with historical or contemporary events. These revelations are not only academic, but almost spiritual, reflecting the manuscript's design as a living challenge to human perception, patience, and insight. The modern investigation is a continuation of centuries-long engagement, a testament to the manuscript's timeless power to intrigue, challenge, and inspire. In this sense, the manuscript is more than a historical artifact or a prophetic text. It is a mirror of human curiosity, ambition, and ingenuity. Its modern decoding efforts, blending computation, collaboration, intuition, and ethics, highlight the enduring relevance of a work created centuries ago. The race continues, but each discovery brings scholars and society closer to understanding the patterns, predictions, and philosophical insights encoded within a text that refuses to yield its secrets lightly, reminding us that some knowledge, though ancient, remains as vital and challenging today as it was when first written. The Forbidden Manuscript story is as much about what has been hidden as what has been revealed. Throughout history, there have been deliberate efforts to suppress, conceal, or control access to its knowledge. From medieval authorities to secretive modern institutions, powerful forces have recognized the manuscript's potential to destabilize established narratives, challenge authority, or reveal insights deemed too dangerous for general consumption. The tension between revelation and suppression forms a central theme in the manuscript's history, shaping both the survival of the text and the mystique surrounding it. Understanding these forces provides a deeper perspective on why the manuscript has remained both tantalizing and elusive for centuries. In the medieval period, custodians often acted with a sense of moral and practical responsibility. Monastic orders and aristocratic families viewed the manuscript not simply as a historical artifact, but as a repository of dangerous knowledge. Its predictive passages, allegories, and esoteric teachings were considered capable of influencing political decisions, inciting rebellion, or corrupting unprepared minds. Stories of monks who hid or even destroyed fragments to prevent misuse underscore the seriousness with which the text was treated. Knowledge, particularly of the future, was seen as a responsibility rather than a right. Only the learned, disciplined, and morally attuned were deemed worthy of access. This culture of caution extended into the early modern period. Scholars who attempted to publish or disseminate findings about the manuscript often faced institutional pressure. Universities, religious authorities, and courts sometimes intervened to censor studies or seize manuscripts. Letters and marginalia from the 17th and 18th centuries hint at clandestine meetings, secret agreements, and protective measures designed to control who could interpret the text. Even when fragments were leaked, they were frequently misattributed, misdated, or obfuscated with additional cryptic notes to prevent widespread understanding. The manuscript's custodians seemed to operate under the belief that knowledge without guidance was dangerous, a philosophy that would continue to shape its handling for centuries. As the manuscript entered the modern era, suppression became more complex and strategic. Governments, military advisors, and influential organizations reportedly took an interest in its predictive passages, recognizing that foreknowledge of conflicts, ideological movements, or technological shifts could provide immense advantage. Yet the manuscript's insights were selectively shared, often confined to inner circles of power. Some fragments were deliberately withheld from the public, either to preserve strategic advantage or to prevent societal upheaval. The interplay between secrecy and dissemination during this period highlights a recurring paradox. The manuscript's very survival relied on concealment, yet its potential impact demanded engagement. Conspiracy theories surrounding the manuscript emerged alongside these suppression efforts. Researchers and enthusiasts speculate that certain wars, political upheavals, or economic crises were influenced by parties acting upon knowledge derived from the text. Secret societies, elite advisors, and clandestine networks are frequently cited in these theories, though evidence is often circumstantial. The allure of conspiracy lies in the manuscript's combination of predictive accuracy and historical ambiguity. When a fragment aligns with real events, it sparks speculation about hidden actors, deliberate manipulation, and the selective release of knowledge. These narratives, whether factual or imaginative, reinforce the manuscript's reputation as both a guide and a tool of power. Instances of deliberate destruction or loss of fragments further amplify the sense of suppression. Accounts persist of libraries destroyed by fire, private collections lost in conflict, or manuscripts disappearing under mysterious circumstances. While some losses can be explained by accidents or war, others appear suspiciously targeted, consistent with a long-standing desire to prevent full access. Researchers today often reconstruct the manuscript from fragmented sources, digital scans, and partial transcriptions precisely because the original documents were systematically hidden or destroyed. This ongoing reconstruction highlights the manuscript's precarious survival, maintained by secrecy, vigilance, and occasional chance. The cultural dimension of suppression is also notable. The manuscript challenges mainstream historical narratives, ideological assumptions, and conventional scholarship. Its predictive passages, symbolic layers, and philosophical insights do not fit neatly within academic orthodoxy, leading to skepticism, dismissal, or outright censorship. In some cases, scholars who acknowledged the manuscript's predictive capacity faced ridicule or professional marginalization, reinforcing the notion that the text disrupts established systems of authority. This tension between radical insight and institutional control mirrors the manuscript's allegorical warnings about human behavior.
Ambition and the consequences of knowledge misused or misunderstood. Modern conspiracy theories have further complicated public perception. Enthusiasts argue that the manuscript has been actively hidden by elite organizations seeking to control historical interpretation or suppress destabilizing truths. Some suggest that wars, revolutions, or economic crises were guided or anticipated by those with access to the text. While these claims are often speculative, they resonate with the manuscript's long history of secrecy and its association with esoteric orders and clandestine networks. The persistence of such narratives speaks to the manuscript's enduring psychological power. It is not only a document, but a symbol of forbidden knowledge, a catalyst for both wonder and suspicion. Suppression has also been subtle and indirect. Academic debates, publication delays, and selective translations have all contributed to the manuscript's mystique. limiting who can access, interpret, or apply its knowledge. In some cases, fragments were intentionally presented in ways that confused or misled readers, embedding additional layers of difficulty to ensure that only the most diligent and insightful scholars could discern the text's meaning. This intentional obfuscation reinforces the manuscript's dual purpose. It is simultaneously a repository of insight and a test of intellectual and ethical capacity. Knowledge, it seems, is a reward for careful study, not casual curiosity. Interestingly, the manuscript's very mystique has reinforced its preservation. Attempts to suppress or hide it have paradoxically increased fascination, inspiring generations of scholars, cryptographers, and enthusiasts to seek it out. The tension between secrecy and revelation has become part of its identity. The manuscript is defined as much by what is hidden as by what is known. Each fragment discovered or interpreted feels like a breakthrough, a small victory in a centuries-long struggle between curiosity, intellect, and forces that seek to contain or control knowledge. Ultimately, the manuscript history of suppression and conspiracy underscores its profound significance. It is a text that challenges authority, provokes ethical reflection, and tests intellectual rigor. Its survival is a testament to the careful balance between concealment and revelation, protection and interpretation. The forces that have sought to keep it hidden, whether for moral, strategic, or self-serving reasons, are part of the manuscript's narrative, reinforcing the sense that it is a living document, one that continues to influence, intrigue, and inspire. In this way, the manuscript is more than an artifact. It is a symbol of the enduring struggle between knowledge and power, curiosity and control, revelation and secrecy, reminding us that some truths are both timeless and perilous.
In the 21st century, the Forbidden Manuscript continues to captivate scholars, cryptographers, historians, and a growing public fascinated by hidden knowledge. Its relevance has shifted from exclusive esoteric circles to a broader discourse, encompassing academic research, technological analysis, and cultural imagination. Unlike previous centuries, when a manuscript's fragments were closely guarded or partially suppressed, modern tools allow for a more systematic study. Yet the text retains its inscrutable allure. Scholars are drawn not only to decode its predictions, but to understand its philosophical, historical, and symbolic implications. Meanwhile, popular culture increasingly frames the manuscript as a source of mystery, inspiration, and intrigue, bridging the gap between academic inquiry and public fascination. Modern scholars approach the manuscript with an interdisciplinary methodology, combining cryptography, mathematics, history, and philosophy. Digital imaging, AI-assisted pattern recognition, and global collaboration have transformed the way fragments are studied. Researchers are able to analyze subtle variations in ink, page layout, and symbolic structure that were previously imperceptible, offering new insights into the manuscript's organization and encoding strategies. Each breakthrough, whether identifying recurring numerical sequences or deciphering layered symbolism, contributes not only to the understanding of the text, but also to a broader appreciation of its intellectual sophistication. These tools, however, have not simplified the manuscript. Rather, they reveal its intricacy, confirming that its design was deliberate and multidimensional. The manuscript's predictions continue to spark scholarly debate. Passages aligned with historical events, such as global conflicts, social upheavals, or technological revolutions, invite rigorous analysis, questioning the limits of coincidence, interpretation, and foresight. Researchers study patterns of human behavior, societal trends, and the interplay between technological innovation and political ambition, comparing these with coded sequences in the text. The effort is not merely to validate prophetic claims, but to explore a philosophy of history embedded in the manuscript, a systematic approach to understanding cause, consequence, and cyclical patterns in human society. In doing so, scholars confront the perennial question posed by the text itself. How much of history is predetermined, and how much is shaped by human choice? Beyond academic circles, the manuscript has permeated popular culture, inspiring books, documentaries, podcasts, and online discussions. Its enigmatic nature, combined with claims of predictive power, appeals to audiences drawn to mystery, alternative history, and the allure of forbidden knowledge. Social media platforms amplify speculation, while independent researchers share interpretations, theories, and digital reconstructions of fragments. The manuscript's presence in popular culture reinforces its relevance. It is no longer confined to rarefied archives, but exists as a shared intellectual and imaginative space where historical inquiry intersects with storytelling, philosophy, and the thrill of discovery. The manuscript also resonates in the realm of ethics and human responsibility. Modern interpreters often emphasize its philosophical dimension, particularly the idea that foresight carries moral obligations. Predictions of conflict, societal change, and technological disruption are framed as lessons in cause and effect, reminding readers that knowledge is both empowering and dangerous. Ethical debates have emerged over the appropriate dissemination of insights derived from the text. Should predictive information be shared widely, or should it be restricted to those with the training and judgment to interpret it responsibly? These discussions echo the historical tension between revelation and suppression, demonstrating that the manuscript's relevance extends beyond prediction to questions of human wisdom, accountability, and the ethics of knowledge. Technological advancements have introduced new dimensions to the manuscript study. Artificial intelligence, machine learning, and computational linguistics enable the analysis of patterns that may span centuries, revealing structural relationships between passages, symbols, and historical correspondences. AI-assisted mapping allows researchers to visualize complex networks of allegory, numerical sequences, and symbolic motifs, providing unprecedented clarity while maintaining the text's enigmatic complexity. These tools, combined with global collaboration among scholars, reflect the manuscript's enduring adaptability. Its encoded knowledge continues to challenge and expand human understanding, even in an age of unparalleled analytical power. The manuscript's influence also extends to conspiracy theories and speculative interpretation. In popular imagination, it is often linked to secret societies, government archives, and covert operations, suggesting that hidden knowledge continues to shape contemporary events. While many claims are unverified, they underscore the manuscript's symbolic potency. It functions as a mirror for both scholarly rigor and imaginative speculation, bridging objective research with the human fascination for mystery. The interplay between verified analysis and conjectural narrative reinforces the text's cultural resonance, illustrating that its impact is as much psychological and symbolic as it is historical or predictive. Additionally, the manuscript continues to inspire artistic and literary creativity. Its symbols, allegories, and coded passages are interpreted through visual art, fiction, and immersive media, translating centuries of esoteric knowledge into contemporary expression. Artists and storytellers are drawn to the text's capacity to convey hidden truths, challenge perception, and evoke the tension between secrecy and revelation. This cultural reinterpretation not only preserves the manuscript's legacy, but extends it, allowing new generations to engage with its mysteries in ways that are simultaneously intellectual, aesthetic, and imaginative. At the same time, the manuscript remains a site of tension between accessibility and preservation. Scholars caution against overinterpretation, oversimplification, or sensationalism, emphasizing that meaningful engagement requires careful study, ethical responsibility, and contextual understanding. The manuscript is not merely a source of entertainment or speculation. It is a complex, multidimensional artifact designed to test intellect, intuition, and moral discernment. Modern relevance, therefore, lies not only in its predictive passages or symbolic beauty, but in its ongoing capacity to challenge how humans perceive history, knowledge, and their own role within the unfolding currents of time. Ultimately, the manuscript's contemporary significance is multifaceted. It functions as a bridge between past and present, between scholarly inquiry and popular imagination, between predictive insight and philosophical reflection. Its survival and study highlight the enduring human fascination with hidden knowledge, the ethical responsibilities of interpretation, and the potential for understanding patterns that transcend ordinary perception. In a world increasingly defined by rapid change, technological disruption, and global interconnection, the manuscript serves as a reminder that curiosity, diligence, and ethical consideration remain essential tools for navigating both history and the future. The manuscript's modern relevance is, in many ways, a testament to its timelessness. It continues to inspire awe, debate, and study, demonstrating that even centuries-old knowledge can engage contemporary minds, provoke ethical reflection, and stimulate creative exploration. Scholars, researchers, and enthusiasts alike are united by the same fascination that has guided human interaction with the text for generations, a recognition that some knowledge, though challenging, encrypted, and esoteric, remains profoundly compelling, capable of illuminating not only the patterns of history, but the responsibilities of those who dare to seek understanding. As we reach the conclusion of our journey through the Forbidden Manuscript, the question emerges, what is its true legacy? Beyond cryptic predictions, coded symbols, and centuries of secrecy, the manuscript's enduring power lies in its ability to challenge human perception, inspire inquiry, and provoke reflection on the nature of knowledge, history, and ethical responsibility. From its earliest custodians to modern scholars and enthusiasts, the text has functioned as a mirror, revealing not only patterns in human events, but also the ways in which humans engage with complexity, uncertainty, and the unknown. Its legacy is not static. It evolves with each generation of readers, interpreters, and storytellers who dare to confront its mysteries. The manuscript's historical significance is undeniable. Across centuries, fragments appear to align with major events. From medieval wars and dynastic shifts to industrial revolutions, world wars, and modern conflicts. These alignments have sparked both awe and skepticism, inviting endless debate over coincidence, foresight, or deliberate design. The richness of its content ensures that it cannot be reduced to simple prophecy. It is a multidimensional artifact, integrating history, philosophy, mathematics, and symbolism. Each decoding effort, each new insight, reinforces the notion that the manuscript functions as both a record and a guide, preserving knowledge that transcends conventional historiography. Equally profound is the manuscript's philosophical dimension. It does not merely predict, instructs, warns, and challenges. Recurrent themes emphasize that knowledge carries moral responsibility, foresight entails ethical accountability, and understanding history requires both reason and intuition. The manuscript implicitly teaches that human agency matters. While patterns can be discerned in cycles observed, actions, choices, and ethical decisions shape outcomes. This philosophical depth differentiates it from ordinary historical texts or prophetic works, positioning it as a manual for thought, reflection, and discernment in an uncertain world. Its esoteric nature has always amplified its power. By encoding meaning through symbols, geometry, numerology, and allegory, the manuscript ensures that knowledge is not passively received but actively sought. Readers are compelled to think, question, and engage across disciplines: history, philosophy, mathematics, and the human sciences. Each layer of code is a test of patience, intellect, and moral perception, creating a dynamic relationship between the text and its audience. Knowledge is not simply granted. It is earned, nurtured, and internalized, reinforcing the idea that wisdom is inseparable from effort, reflection, and ethical judgment. The manuscript's survival, through centuries of suppression, accidental loss, and deliberate concealment, further solidifies its legacy. Efforts to hide or control it, whether by monastic orders, aristocratic custodians, or modern institutions, have paradoxically enhanced its allure. Every fragment recovered, every passage deciphered, is not merely an academic success, but a symbolic victory over forces that sought to limit human understanding. This interplay between concealment and revelation highlights a timeless tension. The manuscript embodies the perpetual struggle between knowledge and power, curiosity and control, secrecy and dissemination. In modern times, the manuscript's influence extends beyond scholarly circles. Its integration into popular culture, speculative theory, and artistic interpretation underscores its symbolic potency. Books, documentaries, podcasts, and visual art reinterpret its allegories, predictions, and philosophical insights, creating new avenues for engagement. Each retelling, whether grounded in rigorous research or imaginative speculation, ensures that the manuscript remains a living entity, continuously inspiring thought, creativity, and inquiry. It is both historical artifact and cultural touchstone, bridging the past and present while inviting reflection on the future. The ethical dimension of its legacy is particularly striking. The manuscript repeatedly emphasizes that knowledge is not neutral. Awareness of future patterns, societal trends, or historical cycles entails responsibility. Misinterpretation, misuse, or ignorance carries consequences, a theme that resonates with contemporary concerns about information, technology, and global interconnection. Modern readers, scholars, students, and enthusiasts are reminded that engagement with knowledge demands not only curiosity and skill, but also reflection, restraint, and ethical discernment. The manuscript thus serves as a guide, urging humanity to balance insight with responsibility, foresight with prudence. Its predictive and philosophical insights converge in a vision of history that is both cyclical and interconnected. Wars, revolutions, technological advancements, and societal shifts are not isolated phenomena, but parts of larger patterns that can be discerned through careful observation, study, and interpretation. The manuscript encourages readers to consider causality, consequence, and correlation,
suggesting that even in apparent chaos, underlying structures and principles govern the unfolding of events. This perspective invites a deeper understanding of human behavior, social dynamics, and the forces shaping our collective destiny. Yet perhaps the most compelling aspect of the manuscript's legacy is its capacity to inspire wonder. The centuries-long mystery, the coded passages, the philosophical depth, and the alignment with historical events collectively create a sense of awe. It challenges assumptions, provokes inquiry, and rewards intellectual and ethical effort. Each discovery feels like a connection across time, linking modern observers with unknown authors and generations of custodians who safeguarded its wisdom. This continuity, bridging centuries of human curiosity and endeavor, is a testament to the manuscript's enduring power as a cultural and intellectual artifact. The Forbidden Manuscript also reminds us of the fragility and resilience of knowledge. Centuries of concealment, partial destruction, and selective interpretation underscore the precariousness of human understanding. Yet its survival, reconstruction, and continued study demonstrate resilience, the capacity of wisdom to endure despite obstacles. The manuscript embodies both the vulnerability and endurance of insight, showing that even in the face of suppression, careful stewardship, ethical reflection, and persistent inquiry can preserve knowledge for future generations. Ultimately, the manuscript legacy is a synthesis of history, philosophy, mystery, and human curiosity. It is a document that teaches as much about the reader as it does about the events it describes. By engaging with its codes, symbols, and allegories, we confront the limits of perception, the responsibilities of foresight, and the ethical dimensions of knowledge. It challenges us to think critically, reflect deeply, and consider the patterns of history not merely as a sequence of events, but as a complex interplay of human choices, moral responsibilities, and universal cycles. In closing, the Forbidden Manuscript stands as a testament to the enduring quest for understanding. It is a bridge across centuries, a repository of hidden wisdom, and a living challenge to intellect, intuition, and ethical judgment. Its pages continue to speak, not only of past events or potential futures, but a timeless human pursuit of knowledge, insight, and understanding. For those willing to engage with its mysteries, the manuscript offers both illumination and reflection, a reminder that true knowledge is never easy, often perilous, but ultimately transformative. Its power endures because it is not simply read. It is experienced, interpreted, and internalized, leaving an indelible mark on those who dare to confront its secrets. The Forbidden Manuscript, in its enigmatic, cryptic, and profoundly philosophical nature, remains one of history's most compelling artifacts. Its legacy is not confined to prediction or history. It is a continuous invitation to explore, question, and reflect. As we close this exploration, we are left with a sense of awe, curiosity, and responsibility, recognizing that some knowledge, though hidden or obscured, has the power to illuminate not just the past and future, but the very nature of human understanding itself, suggesting that even in apparent chaos, underlying structures and principles govern the unfolding of events. This perspective invites a deeper understanding of human behavior, social dynamics, and the forces shaping our collective destiny. Yet perhaps the most compelling aspect of the manuscript's legacy is its capacity to inspire wonder. The centuries-long mystery, the coded passages, the philosophical depth, and the alignment with historical events collectively create a sense of awe. It challenges assumptions, provokes inquiry, and rewards intellectual and ethical effort. Each discovery feels like a connection across time, linking modern observers with unknown authors and generations of custodians who safeguarded its wisdom. This continuity, bridging centuries of human curiosity and endeavor, is a testament to the manuscript's enduring power as a cultural and intellectual artifact. The Forbidden Manuscript also reminds us of the fragility and resilience of knowledge. Centuries of concealment, partial destruction, and selective interpretation underscore the precariousness of human understanding. Yet its survival, reconstruction, and continued study demonstrate resilience, the capacity of wisdom to endure despite obstacles. The manuscript embodies both the vulnerability and endurance of insight, showing that even in the face of suppression, careful stewardship, ethical reflection, and persistent inquiry can preserve knowledge for future generations. Ultimately, the manuscript legacy is a synthesis of history, philosophy, mystery, and human curiosity. It is a document that teaches as much about the reader as it does about the events it describes. By engaging with its codes, symbols, and allegories, we confront the limits of perception, the responsibilities of foresight, and the ethical dimensions of knowledge. It challenges us to think critically, reflect deeply, and consider the patterns of history not merely as a sequence of events, but as a complex interplay of human choices, moral responsibilities, and universal cycles. In closing, the Forbidden Manuscript stands as a testament to the enduring quest for understanding. It is a bridge across centuries, a repository of hidden wisdom, and a living challenge to intellect, intuition, and ethical judgment. Its pages continue to speak, not only of past events or potential futures, but a timeless human pursuit of knowledge, insight, and understanding. For those willing to engage with its mysteries, the manuscript offers both illumination and reflection, a reminder that true knowledge is never easy, often perilous, but ultimately transformative. Its power endures because it is not simply read. It is experienced, interpreted, and internalized, leaving an indelible mark on those who dare to confront its secrets. The Forbidden Manuscript, in its enigmatic, cryptic, and profoundly philosophical nature, remains one of history's most compelling artifacts. Its legacy is not confined to prediction or history. It is a continuous invitation to explore, question, and reflect. As we close this exploration, we are left with a sense of awe, curiosity, and responsibility, recognizing that some knowledge, though hidden or obscured, has the power to illuminate not just the past and future, but the very nature of human understanding itself.